I think we're live, Shereen.
Awesome.
Hey, yay, yay, yay. So, welcome to How to Manage Stress in Challenging Times. So excited to see everyone here today. Although with Facebook Live, we don't actually get to see many faces. Yeah, and that's a pity, but I'm sure you're all with us and we're with you. And we want to use this opportunity to really welcome you to a Monday evening. Thank you for spending this time with us. And we thought in these challenging times, I will speak a little bit about stress, anxieties, and fears, and how we can manage it a little bit better to create a more balanced life for all of us. How does that sound, Shereen?
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
cool,
Yeah. I
cool,
know
cool.
I've needed it at times. So let's share it with others.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Shereen, you and I come from a background where we've had either burnout, anxiety, and with me, even leading to depression. And coming out of the shadows or the depths of those chapters in our lives, to peek over to the other side, to create something different. We'd love to share our stories and our learnings with our viewers today. Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Shereen, would you like to say a little bit about your business and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business is called Recast Coaching, and I specialize in helping people with burnout and anxiety, exactly what we're talking about today. So helping really high achievers who want to go for it and get lots of success, but you keep feeling overwhelmed, stressed, run down. And I find that I can help these people most because that's my exact journey of where I've been. And I really feel that the best way to give it a purpose of why I went through all that is to then help others out the other
Yeah,
side to get success with ease. Yeah,
I don't know who said it, but I think someone in a well-known book actually said, "Your mess is your message," and that is so true. Is
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite similar in the sense that I'm a passion and purpose coach. I help people discover what ignites the fire inside of them, and in order for them to pursue what they love in their life, they got to release the shackles of the past. And those are the fears and anxieties that they've experienced. And I went through a whole bout of being stressed nearly all the time, leading to burnout and eventually I guess, so exhausted, working 16 plus hour days that as I was driving home just after midnight, one day after work, I fell asleep behind the wheel and totaled my car. And I firmly believe the universe gives us little small lessons as we live day to day, and if we listen to small lessons and make changes, then we've learned the lesson and we can move on and elevate and evolve. If we don't learn the lesson, then the lesson has to be a bigger and brighter lesson. And when I think of lessons, I guess I like to frame it as not necessarily lessons that a teacher or a boss wants us to learn, but a gift of learning.
Yeah, it's a message from the universe, I think, or from our unconscious mind sometimes
Well,
too.
unconscious. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
And you got a big whack of a lesson that day, didn't you?
Total crash, boom, bang.
Yeah. When mine was a slow burn, I took 12 years of decent knocks before I learned the lesson, which was way too long. Yeah. That's why I'm keen to help people to get over it quicker, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I thought, Shereen, we'll start with what stress is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in my mind, I think stress is an executive word for fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't like to say we're afraid, do we?
Yeah,
We
that's
don't
right.
say that in business. We don't say that in industry. To say you're afraid makes you seem small and weak. But stress is somehow okay. It's somehow accepted now, isn't it?
And somehow, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, I think, sometimes stress becomes sort of a badge of honor. Yeah, whether it's because of societal expectations or some sort of programming from our parents or from the people before us, that working hard all the time and working hard to fix everyone's problems is supposedly a good thing.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
a badge I wore for a long time.
Sorry, say that again.
That was a big badge that I wore for a long time, that badge of honor of stress. And it was like, if I just keep working the hardest, then everyone will love me more and respect me more. So I just need to keep showing that I'm working, and it's so hard. I had to show how tough it was as well, and be stressed so that I could show to everyone I had it worse off than them, give me attention for that. Yeah. Which was a really vicious cycle, and that's how I burn out.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a really good point there. A lot of stresses is from the belief that we are not lovable in and of ourselves. And the way we get love is to do everything for everyone and elevate ourselves because of the work that we do, improving ourselves again and again. The problem with that, of course, is we have to prove ourselves again and again, for it to continue, and that's not sustainable.
No.
So I was thinking today while I was walking my puppy dog Milo, what's stress? And then I sort of broke it up into two perspectives. That's inward stress. The stress of not getting something done, right? The stress of not getting something done within a perceived time frame that was given to us, right? The stress of feeling not good enough to do it competently or perfectly. Yeah. So expectations that we place on ourselves on what should be acceptable and what is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really powerful when we actually think about that these expectations were either expectations that we place on ourselves or expectations that we've learned from other people about what worthiness and what being lovable means.
Yeah, definitely. And once we've learned and it's worked once, our unconscious mind keeps doing it, doesn't it? Because it's just so stuck in, this is the way to get what I want. This is the way to try and fill that lack of worth or that lack of love. And as clever and as vast as our unconscious mind is, it's also quite limited, isn't it, sometimes? And so it sort of goes, okay, I just want to get you worth. And this way did it once, so we'll just keep doing that because that's the file that's accessible. That worked in that moment. And we just create this endless pattern of having to fulfill things in these same ways. That's really quite outdated programming and just keeps perpetuating the stressful situation.
And neurologically, that's how the brain operates, isn't it? The shortest path, the more practiced path, what we've always done. So security in the familiarity.
Yeah, because all it's trying to do is avoid pain for us. So it thinks, if I do this to make you feel worthy, then you won't be stuck in that pain of being unworthy. But it's a little bit short-sighted, isn't it, in that it doesn't realize that if we keep doing that pattern to not feel unworthy, we'll get all sorts of other pain, which for you was a car crash. For me was adrenal fatigue and disease and things like. We started to create these other problems because it's not using the most resourceful way to go about things.
Absolutely. So that's stress inward. And then I was thinking there's also stress outwards. Not being able to get others to perform in the way that we would like them or expect them to. Yeah. Which leads to not being able to say no and doing it all yourself.
Yeah. People pleasing. Yeah. I was thinking about that today with how I used to do that.
Yeah.
And part of me used to be really annoyed. I used to run events at night at work a lot. And I'd be the one running back and forth. And I used to look really pissed off. I'd go and look at the people who'd done their bit and were sitting back and having a beer up at stage. I was like, why are they just sitting around? I would be running for hours. But then I realized, well, I made that bed for me to lay in. I wanted that situation. So the next day as well, I could go, you didn't do what you were supposed to. And look how much hard work I had to do as well. So it's really interesting how we create those situations and we create those frames of reference. I made myself a people pleaser so that people would be happy with me. But then it backfired on me because I just got pissed off at them.
Yeah, and that's how it is, isn't it? It's like sometimes, in fact, most times, how people treat us is a practice behavior of how we've allowed them to treat us. Yeah, and I want to say that without judgment because I've been there myself. Asking someone to do something at work when I was in corporate world, right, and they don't do it. or I feel that they can't do it as best as I could. So then I take it off them and I tell myself it's easier and faster if I do it. Yeah, and it's true. It's definitely true. It's easier and faster when I do it. But what does it mean in the longer term? What have we conditioned the other person into accepting? Because we've got to be really careful that overperformance in ourselves doesn't lead to us being the victim of our own success. And overperformance in us doesn't lead to other people underperforming. Because it's not good for us and it's not good for them, because they actually need to learn to do their work. And it's okay to be a guiding hand. It's okay to lead them by the hand. It's okay to help them to the nth degree initially, then to be able to step back and allow them to make their own mistakes too.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know I'm talking about work a lot here, and stress is not just about work. It's also in a family too.
Yeah, or just at the moment, just with what's going on around it. So that's another source of our outward stress at the moment for some people with COVID, of what's going on with things. I know when things first started, I had some anxious days because there was really rapid change. And as someone who likes to be on top of things and have a plan, that hit me for six at first. But the difference is because I've done a lot of that inner work and I've got those strategies now. What might have taken me months to get over before took me a couple of hours. And that's the really nice bit because immediately I went, okay, I can see what this is. And I get why I'm feeling this way. Of course, everything's changed. We don't know what's going on. And I just allowed that to be and sat with that for a little bit. And so that awareness, I think, from when we do the work that we've done and that we do with our clients as well, that's the key step, isn't it? Having that awareness of what's going on for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a conversation with a friend's son just last weekend. So he just graduated from uni and he had a goal that in 3 years' time, he'd be working overseas, he'd be engaged to a girlfriend and a whole range of things. And not just the goal, but he's also set in his mind the vehicle to achieve the goal, how to do it. So, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people, I guess, in a way, make the mistake of when they set goals. They set the goal of not the outcome, but the vehicle. And if you set how you get it, number one, you are restricted by how you can get what you want. But number two, when external circumstances change, like COVID, which means he can't travel overseas now, that whole goal is, crash, boom, bang. Yeah. So whereas if he actually set a goal that by 3 years' time, I'd experience freedom, I'd experience in my career, flexibility with whatever it is, then he could look at other ways to get that goal. And rather than being affected by external COVID circumstances. Because I asked him, what about your friends, right? And he said, oh, it's interesting because one of my friends asked me, what did you learn from COVID? And he said, I learned nothing. Right? But his friend said, I've learned so much. I've learned that I can actually have the time to jump online and learn of how people run online businesses so that I can find a way to still generate income and look at different ways of generating passive income. So both, right? Similar circumstances, the exact same COVID, the exact same uni that they came out from, the same graduation, the same course, but their perceptions of the problem were quite different. Yeah.
And so that creates a totally different situation for them just by how they're seeing it. Hey. And it's also when we have that awareness, when we're aligned and we know what we really want, not the vehicle, as you say, but what that outcome and what the feeling is with it, we can pivot, because we saw that in our industry as well, didn't we? People who just immediately were able to adapt and have had some of their biggest earning months through this. And then other people who've been left floundering.
Yeah, I'm going to raise my hand and say that because my accountant sent me an email just as, JobKeeper and Job Seeker was coming about. And she sent me an email and said, Andrew, you could apply for this. And then I looked at the criteria and I looked at my earnings last year and earnings this year for that month. And I went, no, I'm not eligible. And that is that flexibility, adaptability, because humans are designed to evolve.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we're more okay in here and in here, we can do that, can't we? And that's the difference. You didn't get stressed out and go into a heap and not know what to do and flounder for months, you've been launching and rewriting your programs in this time and relaunching things. Like, incredible thing.
I'll be honest, right? There's a part of the brain, the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, fight or flight response, that for an instant went, oh, okay, what does this mean? Right?
Yeah, we do.
But then because of the work that we've done, the inner work that we've done, right? The clearings that we've done of fears, of sadness, of anger, of guilt, of shame, right? The mind can pivot quite easily to something, to something different, to something more resourceful, to something more creative. Because I actually read an article recently. Stress causes cortisol, obviously, the stress hormone, and also adrenaline, because we feel like we need to do something, right? And we need to kickstart something, right? And we don't know what it is, but we just got to do something. The thing about the human body is that these so-called more negative hormones like cortisol and adrenaline have an inverse relationship with the positive hormones, like serotonin, oxytocin. Right, serotonin is the happy hormone, and oxytocin is the cuddle hormone. So when we are stressed, then all our positive hormones are actually the levels have actually depleted, right? And then it says when we have less of the positive hormones, our creativity to find different solutions reduces with the level of hormones. And it's not just in humans; it's also in animals, like baboons. When they have cortisol and stress hormones, right? They when they're experiencing stress, they refuse to seek out new territory when they are being endangered, or they refuse to seek out new mates when they feel that they are in trouble. So our creativity is actually blocked if we stay in the stress. So I'm not saying don't feel it. It's so important. I want to talk about that in a little bit. To feel the stress, to actually acknowledge it, and then to come out of it with a creative or different creative options.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because you just described how I spent years of my life. So when I had anxiety, I was running cortisol pretty much every day, constantly, until I ran out. So I almost flatlined my cortisol levels, which then meant for a while until I learned how to understand it better. If I'd get stressed, I'd just go off the charts with my stress in an instant because I didn't have the management of it. But and so that's why I stayed how I was for so long, because I didn't have the resources when I was in that state to change it. And it was only when I started to get that help and that support that I could shift the pattern. But unfortunately for me, I shifted it a little bit just to something else. Like I went, okay, I kind of learned how to deal with anxiety. That's cool. And so then I just shifted it to burning out at work. And then I shifted burning out at work to burning out elsewhere, until I really learned to get that awareness to be able to pivot in a resourceful way. That's the difference, I think. When we have that awareness of what we want and of our true self, it's when we can pivot resourcefully. Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit, I think, about stress and how it affects us and in different situations, and how stress affects our creativity. And you made a really good point there. I think in personal development, in some areas of personal development, there is a danger of false positivity. And I want to read out, because I did a quick search on false positivity. I want to read out a definition. So false positivity is a relentless pushing away or suppressing or distraction from difficult emotions in order to embrace false positivity. And I think the law of attraction has a lot to answer for that, because the law of attraction says, if you focus on what you want, then that's what you get. So then people then assume that I can't focus even for a moment any negative things, because if I focus on any negative things for even a second, I will get it back, right? And then people start to then push them down and push them down. Now emotions equals energy in motion. You've got energy in motion inside your body. We push it down, compress, more pressure, more pressure, more pressure. It starts to brew until it finally erupts in the most inappropriate, inopportune circumstances. And most times it erupts. We've got comments happening here. Most times it erupts in the face of the people who are closest to us, who love and care about us.
And we often leave them wondering, what did I do to get that explosion? But it's just everything pent up. I like to think of it as, if you're trying to hold the beach ball under the water, you push it down, you can hold it for a while, but eventually the pressure of the water, when you let go for a second, is going to shoot the ball back up.
Absolutely.
And right out of the water. Yeah. But instead, if all we did was held onto the ball at the surface of the water, it would just sit there, wouldn't it? And then when we've looked at it, we've seen the ball, we go, this is what the ball is. And you let go of it. When it sits on the water surface, it just kind of floats off, doesn't it? Instead of this big explosion, it just moves on when it's done.
Hey, Shereen, I want to just spend a moment just acknowledging Mel and Michelle, Slight and Finn, Ross, and also Faisy. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, good to have you guys here with us. Yeah, and I want to continue with that, observing that ball thing.
Yeah.
Because I guess I grew up in a culture, and it's also quite a male-based personality trait with a lot of men, where we grew up with the whole thing about manning up. You can't cry, you just got to man up. So that means suppress, ignore. And it happens with women as well as people of fluid genders, right? With men, it's you can't be sad, you can't cry, right? With women, it's that is so unseemly when you're annoyed and frustrated and angry. So you're not allowed to be angry. Yeah. And I think this idea of the polarity of emotions is something that we need to start changing the world's thinking about emotions, right? Every emotion has a purpose. I mean, whether you believe in God or the universe or biology or evolution, there must be a reason our body is giving us a feeling.
Yeah. And rather than negative and positive, I like to see them as learning and celebrating emotions.
Yes.
So they either have a to tell us something is going on or something needs to change, or if it's what we more call our positive emotions like joy and gratitude, they're about celebrating. Don't forget about them. Enjoy them as well, because how often as well are we all busy mode that we just skip past the good ones as well? We press the stuff we don't want to feel, and we skip past the stuff that doesn't seem right to celebrate.
Oh, Shereen, I love it because I've got so many ideas there. I wanted to go through with you and we talked about the emotions and their purpose, because I think that will help people work out stress, right? So let's start. I'm going to start with let's go back to first principles, because I think babies are the most untarnished of souls when they are born, right? So they have a lot to teach us when it comes to emotions, because they haven't yet learned to filter things out based on programming or influences. So I was going to go something like I just something basic like sadness. When a baby cries out, when baby's hungry or baby needs something
to be held,
to be nurtured. So sadness really for the baby at that point when they're crying is a call out for the human need of love and connection.
Yeah.
So when you're stressed and you're feeling sad, that could be your body calling out to say, hey, is there someone you should be talking to? Is there someone who can comfort you? Is there someone who can give you a hug? And when you give someone a hug and they give you a hug, then your oxytocin levels start to increase and your cortisol levels start to decrease. And then your ability to look at the situation differently might actually expand.
Yeah.
Right. So sadness really is a call out for love and connection. Have a feel, people. That's what it is. And sometimes, I know when I grew up, when I was sad, my mom would say, with all love, she would say, don't cry. Don't cry. Yeah. These days, when my nephews, god nephews, because my siblings don't have kids, right? My sibling doesn't have kids. So my god nephews and god nieces, when they cry, I just stay there with them and hold the space. Yeah. For love and connection, and ask the questions. Hey, what's happening? Yeah. So and sometimes people go, but what if my friends are not there? Okay, then I go, when you see someone, a friend, a loved one who's sad, what do you say to them? You know, I don't know about you. I'd go to them and say, hey, what can I do for you today to make you feel better? Are you okay? Yeah. And I think Louise Hay, I think which is I think one of the for me, one of the biggest proponents of self-love. She said, look at yourself in the mirror and actually look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, hey, what can I do for you today to make you feel better?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's weird because we were never really taught self-love growing up.
No.
Mm.
So many of us weren't. And so many people put it on the back burner of I'll do that when I've done everyone else. Hey, when everyone else is loved and cared for, then that's okay. That makes me feel loved. But it's only when we have that love within ourselves that we have enough to give to other people. Well, resourcefully do it, isn't it? Yeah.
The cup of love, right? If you have nothing inside the cup of love, you have nothing to give.
Yeah, you got to fill your cup first.
You got to fill your cup, and then the overflow from the cup onto the saucer is what we share with everyone. Yeah, and I know it's a very controversial topic. Yeah, and I want to share a story about this lady I know, Julie Sparkle, and this is my retelling of a story. So please, Julie, if you're listening here, I hope that I'm telling your story justice with justice, hey, or giving your story justice. So she, her husband was killed in a war, and she had a son who had Asperger's. And because she was the sole parent, she wanted to be both mom and dad for the son. Of course, why wouldn't we, right? So she did everything for her son. And one day she realized that her son, even in a group of other children with, varying levels of Asperger's and autism, she could sense that her son wasn't happy at all. Yeah, and the other kids were happier. And then she went, but I do everything for him. Why is he not happy? And then she asked herself a question, what makes me happy? And she said, when I'm empowered to do things for myself and I've achieved things and I know and I'm confident that I can do things. So she started to then slowly, drive son to the daycare center and park a couple of meters away so he can actually walk by, and you're a teacher, so you understand, right? Walk by himself and started just allowing son to perform, right? And then when he turned 18, he went on a road trip with his mates and the car broke down and he called mom and mom said, look, mate, I'm interstate. You got to work it out yourself. And he, with his mates, managed to get, the RACV or RACQ, whatever, to get everything organized. And that night he got back home and he was walking around the house with his chest up, elevated, and so proud of himself. And Julie said, you mothers and fathers out there, when you want to give everything to your children, ask yourself, what could you be taking away from them?
Yeah. And taking away from yourself. So when you think probably the time, the effort, the energy that was taking her. And so often parents, especially when you talk about, this stress and trying to achieve and work hard, they want to give all to their children quite honorably. We want to, have the best house and the best schools and this and that. But what we're really modeling at the same time for our children is stress and hard work and filling other people's cups and burnout. When wouldn't it be amazing if we could model self-love and boundaries and prioritizing ourselves and our family to our kids?
So for our viewers out there, right? For our viewers out there, if you're someone who is what we call in coaching a rescuer, or has a strong rescuer personality, wanting to do everything for everyone, look back in your life. There is probably someone that you've modeled who's done that, or someone who neglected us, and therefore we are trying to overcompensate for that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. and neither is super positive.
And neither serving us or the person we're trying to rescue. Because every time we go in and save them, they're not learning, just like her son wasn't learning how to do things for himself. And it's not helping us because we're putting all our energy elsewhere instead of saving ourselves and connecting with ourselves.
Yeah. Look, I'm not saying we shouldn't help people. I think we all should
no,
help people.
Neither, yeah.
Work right. When I first learned about setting healthy boundaries, which is essentially what we're talking about here, right? Setting healthy boundaries. If there was someone at work who couldn't do something and they asked for my help, then I would help them do it. Perhaps the first time, do it for them while they were looking. And then the second time, if they asked me again, I'd go, hey, remember when I showed you? Do you want to show me, what you do, do it for me, and then I will guide you. And then the third time, I might step back a little bit more and slowly allow them to empower themselves. Now, there will be some people who will not do it. Yeah, Donna goes major rescuer in recovery. Good on you, Donna, for having that awareness and also the vulnerability, the strength and vulnerability to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Donna. I am too, Donna. It's okay.
Ditto. Yeah, ditto. What was I saying? So and this is akin to being a lifeboat. Everyone seems to be drowning, right? And then we're with the lifeboat and then we want to save them and then put them into our lifeboat, but we have no time to patch our own lifeboat, that eventually at some point we may all drown. The alternative is to be a lighthouse, stable, grounded on the shore, because we worked on ourselves, right? And we shine a light for people to be able to swim to shore.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Because otherwise they don't learn how to help themselves if we just keep pulling them out of the water every time. So we need to show them the way. And that's how I see the light, is I use my light to now guide other people to find theirs and find their way back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that metaphor. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that metaphor, Rosie and I was talking about it in one of the summits. Be the lifehouse, not the lifeboat.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous way of looking at it. Yeah. And that's when we're totally out of that rescuer mode, aren't we? We're just going, look, I'm here. I've done this and I can help guide you to do it for you, rather than I'm going to save you so you're not hurting and drowning anymore. It's not a really resourceful way for anyone. Yeah.
Because if we actually look deeper into ourselves, the rescuer is really trying to find worthiness and love through rescuing. Yeah.
And we've got to find it here instead, don't we?
Yeah, because at the deepest level, we think we are helping others, but we are really meeting an unresourceful need within ourselves. Let's be real. Let's be real. Yeah. Because the true empowerer would of course save once and even save a second time. But if they're not learning, then really, whether it's conscious or unconscious, they are taking advantage. Yeah. And if we allow that to happen, we are part of the problem. Yeah. Cool. So that was sadness. And I wanted to talk about the next one. And I love this one, anger.
Yeah. Anger is so interesting. I think anger really shows up as that beach ball in the water a lot, doesn't it? Because we don't, I can't be angry here. It's that beach ball under the water. I can't be angry here. I can't show it here. I can't show it here. And eventually when we let go, it exposes.
Yeah, because people confuse anger with aggression. Because I know I had this problem with anger because my dad in the past was quite an angry person. He was dealing with a lot of poverty, a lot of situation, not excusing him, but that was who he was. And there was a bit of, violence in the family as well. So I took it as that aggression equals anger. Anger is an emotion. Aggression is a choice, is a behavior. Anger could be something as simple as, no, you can't treat me like that. Okay? Anger could be something as simple as, you're piling all this work on me. The work that you've given me yesterday is going to suffer because of this. Which ones do you want me to prioritize?
Yeah. Or in a relationship even. I don't feel like you're listening to me and I need you to be more present with me. So anger we often confuse it very much with that aggressive way of doing things. But it's actually an incredibly resourceful emotion when we use it well, isn't it? Because anger is about setting a boundary and communicating to someone, I'm not happy with how I've been treated. And when we use it in a really resourceful way, it's great. And when we don't ignore it, we can go, okay, I'm not happy with this situation, so I'm going to do something about it to benefit me. And it benefits the other person when you do it resourcefully, doesn't it? Because then they go, oh, okay, this is where I need to realign.
They learn, oh, this is the line, oh, this is how I need to respect that person if I want them to respect me. Yeah.
So it's actually a fantastic emotion.
Yeah, when people are trampling all over us, I mean, let's be real, right? If there wasn't anger, like good anger, like positive, righteous anger, if there wasn't anger, you wouldn't be allowed to vote today, Shereen, because you're a woman.
Yep.
If there wasn't anger, I'd be the little Asian kid, racism, and inequality. Yeah. If there wasn't anger, there would still be even more elevated levels of apartheid and inequality in the world. If there wasn't anger, LGBTIQ people wouldn't be able to get married today in these countries. Now, that's what anger is.
Yeah.
Yeah, to step up, to back ourselves up, to ask for what we want and need. And not everyone can give us what we need or want, and that is okay. That means we have to make a decision then. Do we stay around these people? Or is there a creative way to get what we want? Or do we leave the situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even anger with ourselves is really interesting as well. So when we are not treating ourselves how we want, when we get angry about it, that's a really good lesson as well.
Absolutely. And it happens a lot when people like step over the boundaries and we don't back ourselves up. Then what happens logically then is we direct that anger inwards. You were too timid, you didn't have the courage, you didn't do that, you should have done that, right? But we don't listen to that anger sometimes. The anger is just saying, hey, step up.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's
It
so
is
good.
interesting. Yeah. So I guess, I'm just quickly going to cover the other two main emotions, which is fear.
Yeah.
Fear is good because fear tells us that we should run away when there's danger. The problem with that is fear also pops up when we need to step out of our comfort zone and do something different to evolve.
Yes.
And sometimes we confuse the fear of being chased by a lion with the fear of doing something new so we can be better people.
Big difference. And anxiety, because we were talking about that's a big thing for us too. That's just future-paced fear, really, anxiety, isn't it? So mine was always about what will happen.
Yes. Yeah, imagining the future.
And the number one thing for anyone who's like I was suffering with anxiety, like mine was daily for 4 or 5 years, the biggest turning point was when instead of trying not to be anxious, which didn't work, I just go, don't think like this, don't be anxious, it would just create more, is when I learned that my anxiety had a role and it was useful, just like we're saying. So it was there to warn me. It had a really beautiful purpose. And I learned how to talk to it and go, thanks, but today's just a normal day, so I don't need you. You can just rest. And I've got this. And when I learned to mother my anxiety and I learned to accept its place, that's when I truly got dominion over and was able to handle it and move forward from it. Yeah.
What do people think about speaking to your emotions? Because that's something that Shereen does, and I will admittedly say that's what I do too. Yeah, and actually listening to it, like it's a part of us, because it is, right?
Yeah, listening to what that part wants.
Yeah, and rather than suppressing, asking it, hey, what's happening? What do you really want? It's like a signpost, right? Emotions, when listened, are like signposts for the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people that I work with as a coach come to me with guilt, a lot of guilt about the past and guilt about situations. And at the end of the day, the guilt is really telling us that, hey, you might have effed up then, but you can do better next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle's going, I do have regular chats. Oh, you go,
good work, Michelle.
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes my doggy looks up at me and just goes. because I go,
Oh,
okay.
Roz does too. Roz is saying yes as well. Fantastic, ladies. Yeah. And that's when we just acknowledge it, hear it, it can just move on. And I find so often when we just do that, just the simple act of going, okay, what is this message? What's this about at the moment? Okay, I'm feeling this. And we just, as afraid as we might be to sit into the emotion, sit into it for a minute, it just dissolves, doesn't it? It just passes by. When if we spend that time pushing it down, it just gets bigger and bigger because we're not listening to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the golden learning for me with helping with anxiety.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, there's an ancient wisdom, right, in the 22 principles of success, love, and happiness, and one of the secrets is the secret of pain. Right, that pain actually gives us a message. You know, when there's a hot stove and we touch it, then the pain gives us that information to remove our hand. Yeah. So we got to ask ourselves, when we're going through stress, anxieties, and pain in our lives, what is it telling us to do?
And are we listening?
Yeah, because if we don't, then we leave our hand there, and it burns more and more and more. And for me, it was the crash, boom, bang.
Yeah. For me, it was many years of it. I didn't listen very well for a very long time. So that's why I really share this with people now, that you just stop and listen. You know, mine was autoimmune disease. Mine was brain injury. Mine was literally falling apart before I started to listen. Yeah. Don't take as long as me is my message.
Yeah. I think that's our message, isn't it? Yeah. You know,
we're here to help you people.
We are sharing this information here. You know, you don't have to get to that stage. You can do it right now. Right? When there's a feeling, feel it in your body. You know, there was an experiment, and I think it's University of Iowa, if I'm not mistaken, where they played this game. You know, it's a gambling game. So 4 decks of cards, 2 blue decks and 2 red decks, right? And the only way people could win was to turn more blue, like each card has a score to it, either positive or negative. And the only way people could win was to turn more blue cards than more red cards. And they also put in sensors on the subject's bodies, right, to measure sweat glands, heartbeat, and all that kind of stuff. And this is what they found. After about 25 to 30 cards, I'm not sure of the exact number, people logically and consciously knew, I have to turn more blue cards to win. After about 10 to 12 cards, people sort of had an inkling of the blue cards. But after about the 5th or 6th card, the body was already reacting when the person tried to pick up a red card. There was more sweat and the heartbeat started to race. So listen to our bodies, because they know the answer before our brain gets it. Because I don't know about you, Ron, but I feel emotions in my body. You know, when I feel fear, it's in my gut. You know, when I feel anger, it's in my throat, it's in my chest. And that's a good way, I think. You know, we want to talk about techniques for managing stress, and we want to listen to emotions, connect with our body.
Yeah. And because changing our physiology also then has an impact on our mental state. So not only does our mind create our physical responses, but the other way too. So if we go hand on a ground and going to relax my body, it actually starts to change our mental state as well. It can have that effect. So if we're aware of what our triggers are, we can catch it earlier and start to change that behavior for ourselves. Even 3 deep breaths has an amazing effect sometimes in a moment. Like really simple stuff.
That window between a trigger and a response. Because without the window, all we have is reaction. Yeah. With that window of 3 deep breaths, then you have a window of response. Yeah. And I love talking about that too, because I think there are some techniques that we can just switch the stress and anxiety into a more resourceful state. And you talked about it, 3 deep breaths. Yeah. And you also mentioned, I guess, you know, power poses or relaxing poses. You know, I mean, Amy Cuddy. I'm going to do a Amy Cuddy. If you search for a TED Talk, Amy Cuddy talks about how you know, traditionally people believe that the mind affects the body, but she also proved through her experiments that the body also affects the mind, that it's a system. So if if we are feeling stress and we want to feel more confident about the situation, if we stand up like Wonder Woman or Batman or Superman or whatever it is, then the hormonal levels in our body start to regulate.
Yeah.
Right. And that gives us a bit more confidence to go, okay, great, this has happened. What can I do about it? Okay. Rather than why is this happening to me? Can you see how why is this happening to me is disempowering, as opposed to how I can, what can I do about this? How can I do this? It becomes a lot more empowering. Yeah. Cool. I have a technique called anchoring that I use. Yes. Because I know a couple ages ago, I was about to do a presentation. No, actually I wasn't. My boss was supposed to do a presentation, but then he felt sick. He couldn't do it. So he gave me the slides by email and said, you got to do it. And I got so stressed because I'm speaking to 300 people here, right? But I managed to collect my thoughts. I managed to, because I knew the material, right? I adjusted the slides and I presented it, and I felt really good. I got really good feedback from it. And since then, I've anchored that event, right? And the learnings from that event is that it's okay, Andrew, no matter what happens, you'll get through this. Yeah. And that event is now an anchor that I use. It's really interesting when we go back to the event and go, yeah, I had resources at the time. I had creativity, I had resilience, I had love, and I had passion for what I was going to do. And if I use those resources today in this situation, then I can get through this.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Gratitude is another one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good for raising us across the board as well. And when we look at our vibrational frequency, the vibrational frequency of gratitude is so high. Yeah. One of my big ones is I like to connect to my heart center. So the Heart Math Institute have found out we have more than one brain or mind. So we have our head one, our heart, and our gut. And there's a beautiful quote that I love that is, our mind thinks it knows everything, but our heart only knows you. That's all it knows. So it's not worrying about that fear, that stress, that report that's due. It just knows you and what you need. And I get beautiful messages and truth when I drop into here. And it's just about dropping your breathing and your energy into your heart. And it's such a supportive, loving, safe space. And with such beautiful messages for what we need.
Body work, hey? Body work is so cool. Body work, We do,
and it can be so quick, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because we stay up here so much, so I go less head people, more heart. Yeah, more heart, more gut. Yeah. I want to mention Ray Buttigieg. Great comment. He says, my key takeaway so far: nothing wrong with spending time to help others, but take the time to do the things that need doing for myself first. Absolutely.
Beautiful, Ray.
Absolutely. Then you can be the best version of yourself for other people.
Yeah.
Cool. So
I'll send you the quote, Gretel. Yeah.
I guess when I think about techniques to handle stress, I think about this is me, right? Because I'm structure guy, right? I think of the bronze level techniques and the silver level techniques and the gold level techniques. So bronze level techniques are the stopgap solutions that we can use right now to solve the situation right now, to get through it. Yeah. So that we can perform appropriately, and then we can go back later on and work out the root causes. So things like, power poses, anchoring, gratitude, and just switch your thought. What's the story you tell yourself? I'm not good enough. Actually, no, I'm good enough to do this. So really quick stopgap solutions. So I call them the bronze techniques. Then I've got and I've got a couple of silver techniques. And for me, those are the things like, meditation, I think, is a good one, even if you do 5 minutes a day, because a lot of people confuse meditation. They think that meditation is to have a blank slate. No. What are your ideas about meditation, Shereen?
For me, it's about just bringing presence to the moment. So, and sometimes I do that with a purpose, with a particular thing I'm focusing on. Sometimes it is just to focus on the breath or a mantra or a spot on the wall, but it's about presence. So you're aligned. Yeah.
And that's so, Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
right. And I do more the presence one, and I connect with my body. I go from my top of my head and then slowly down. And then as I'm scanning my body, emotions or feelings or beliefs that pop up, and I just acknowledge them. Oh, yes, I'm feeling a bit sad because this dog that I saw on the side of the road was really struggling walking, or whatever it is, just feeling. Because when you do it in a quiet moment like that, you're honing, well, I am then honing my skills to be able to recognize my emotions as they come up.
Yeah.
So then stressful emotions come up, and I can be proactive and go, okay, great, something's there. Yeah, so definitely. And then, of course, we have those gold level solutions or the platinum level solutions.
I'm laughing because they're good, aren't they? They make such the big difference. That's the gold in it. Yeah.
A lot of our behaviors, as we know, come from programming, what we've learned in the past. Yeah. I use this analogy. When I first learned how to drive a car, I had to consciously think of so many things. Yeah, rear view mirror, the gear stick, everything else, and it was like overwhelming. And then after 6 months, I can drive without even thinking. Right. So those neural patterns have been embedded inside of me so unconsciously that I have to do it without thinking. So how many years of our lives have we consciously learned stuff that's now embedded, that's driving our lives unconsciously, that driving anxiety and stress, whether we need them or not, because we've learned them from other people or had to cope with situations in the past using these techniques.
Yeah.
And there are two ways to rewire those patterns, as we know. One of it is through sheer repetition and willpower. Right? That takes a long time and it's very exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to actually know what it is in order to be able to do that. Because I think I tried to do that for a long time, but I didn't know what the real patterns were deep down. So it's shining that light on it first as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that a lot. I did that before a lot. I just got really exhausted, even more exhausted than before, because I've got to be aware all the time, And when stress happens, that's the time when we are least aware, because we are overwhelmed with so many things and it's hard to control, right? So I think in our work, Shereen, we talk about clearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if you could share what clearing means to you and what your experience of clearing is.
To me, I like our gardening analogy that we talk about, that, we all find weeds in our garden. And I guess the willpower way to me is about if you just constantly trample them into the ground to try and get rid of them, but you've got to do it constantly. So instead, clearing for me is getting that weed and pulling it out by the roots. So you can see what the root is, what the cause is, so that you don't plant the same one again. And so you can choose to discard that and instead in its place, put a new belief that is beautiful and that serves you. And it's also, I found for me, when I did these clearings, it's just I went into it thinking I was broken, that I had to fix myself. But when I dug down and pulled out all the weeds, what I found at the bottom of the hole was me. Beautiful, complete, worthy, full of value. I just put all this rubble and all this crap on top of her. And to me, that's what clearing is. It's about getting rid of other people's stuff, other stories, societal things that we put on top to find ourselves at the bottom and to plan a beautiful version of things for ourselves. Yeah.
The Buddha talks about enlightenment, and he says enlightenment is not putting anything on. It's about clearing away the gunk to find the diamond within.
Yeah.
So I look at it that way too. All the stuff that's on the outside that's hiding who we are on the inside, we got to clear them all out. And the way to clear it is to be able to go back to the root causes or the incidents that occurred. So I want to just give us a quick example of that. So I had a client come to me a few years ago, and he said, Andrew, I need interview technique. And I'm like, what do you mean? Right. I apply for all these jobs and I get shortlisted. But every time I go to the job interview, I feel anxiety, I feel stress, right? And I can't perform. Okay, and I said, what do you mean I can't perform? What does that mean? Oh, I just can't. They ask me about things I've done in my achievements, and I can't manage to tell them the stories of my achievements, right? And I said, look, I can definitely help you with interview technique, but I think we need to dig deeper and see what this is about. Yeah, and as we did unconscious work, like tapping into his body and finding out some of the root causes or events about not being able to tell stories. He went back to a time when his dad, who was a tradie at the time, and Australia was going through a bit of a recession, and the other tradies in town were talking themselves up to get work, and dad wasn't getting any work. So dad would come home frustrated and annoyed, and imaginative little boy would be telling stories about fairies and butterflies and all kinds of things. And dad would go, stop it, boy, don't you tell stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the voice of his father in his mind when he walked into a job interview. And by pulling out that weed from the root cause, within 8 months, he applied for a couple of jobs. At the end of one of those job interviews, he called me and said, Andrew, if I don't get this job, it's not about me, it's about them, because I perform so well, and that's great. And he got the job,
Yeah.
and his life has changed so much by clearing out the weeds in his life.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being able to and I'm asking the question generally to myself too, being able to actually live life from a clean slate, or as clean a slate as we can.
Yeah.
The lightness of releasing the shackles from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And to be able to rewrite things the way that we want and the way that really works for us now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that leads to the gold platinum process is find a coach who can work, that you trust, that you have a rapport with, that you have connection with, that you can be vulnerable with, because these changes happen really quickly and really effectively and really sustainably if we allow it to. And it's the other way that we rewire our brain, which is emotional catharsis. Yeah. We remember the most powerful memories in our life when we are super excited, super happy, or super sad, or super anxious, or super stressed. Those are the memories that are most prominent in our lives. So let's use the way the brain works, and in these processes, tap into those emotions to rewire the programming in our minds.
Yeah.
I'm just looking
and
at the time.
you and we both employed coaches to help us with that, didn't we? We're speaking from our experiences here. We don't do this solo either, and that's why we suggest it as well. It was the biggest change for me, and I know it was probably the biggest catalyst for change for you as well. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. When all the self-help books didn't quite work, when all the willpower work didn't quite work, when the bronze and silver techniques didn't quite get me there, I needed to dig deep within myself to go with the gold and platinum way of clearing away those weeds. And I've never looked back. Yeah. And the best thing about it is now we have the tools to keep evolving and keep clearing things out as they pop up in our lives.
Yeah. Definitely.
Michelle's going, I'm watching on YouTube. Great, Michelle. Awesome.
Fantastic. We're streaming everywhere. It's great.
We're actually experimenting here, hey, because I've never actually done streaming before.
Yeah, and it's good. It's working.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, cool. So I'm just looking at the time now, Shereen. Any parting words? Actually, any questions that people might have for us?
Yeah, we'll give them a minute. I also have a little free gift to offer our people who've tuned in as well. So I'll talk about that if you want any questions come through. And I want to talk a little bit about Andrew, what Andrew has to offer us as well. So some of you may not know that Andrew actually trained me as a coach. And he actually is my coaching mentor. So Andrew has become a mentor to new and aspiring coaches as well, which is just his absolute expertise. And so that's why we're here today as well, is because he's given me the tools to be able to help other people in the way that I want. So if you are interested in becoming an aspiring coach or learning more on how to help your clients as a coach, get in touch with Andrew because he's incredible. So I had to just build you up a bit there.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing experience, and I'm very grateful for the journey to work with you. Yeah. And Shereen is, of course, the Burnout and Anxiety Coach. And, she has worked so much on herself to be a shining example, a shining light for the people around her and for her clients. And some people here, like Michelle, for instance, beautiful Michelle, thank you. Shereen, you're an amazing coach for teenagers. Is this an area you'll be focusing? Would you like to answer that question, Shereen?
Yeah. I focus on helping people who need me and who want to make change. So if that's teenagers, I'm used to talking to teenagers because I've been a high school teacher for 15 years. So that comes easily to me. So it's definitely a field I can help people with. Burnout and anxiety and stress is also totally my past 20 years experience. So I really want to help people to move past that as well, whether they be a teenager or not. And so I'm really focusing on helping people with that gold level sort of stuff that we talk about at the moment, and with working one-on-one with people and so on your deep stuff. And so that's my little gift for people watching today. So even if you're watching on replay, if you happen to be one of the first few, I'm offering 5 people a free stress busting session with me. So a 60-minute session, and all you need to do is to be one of the first 5. Just type in the comments, yes, please. And I will get back to you on that and after this and PM you to set up a time for that. So 5 free stress busting sessions is my gift for all the beautiful people who've tuned in and listened with us today, because I want to keep serving and helping them. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Faith. Thank you, Ray, as well. Beautiful, Shereen. Thank you so much. Thank you for being around, Ray. And you're right, there might be some thoughts that you can share with others too.
So share this. That's kind of why it's important, isn't it, to keep being a gift.
Absolutely, yeah. And I wanted to also just show on the screen Shereen's website. If you want to reach out to Shereen, she's also got a Facebook page, Recast Coaching with Shereen. Is that what it's called? Recast?
Yeah, Recast with Shereen, or you search Recast Coaching, you'll find it either way, yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And also for those who want to reach out to me, just andrewlow.coach, or just search Andrew Low Coaching and Training, and you'll find me as one of the first results in Google. Yeah, Andrew Low Coaching and Training. And I've worked a lot with people who are looking at a change of careers, people who would like to help people and thinking that coaching as a booming industry would like to help people and get qualified and credited. And I absolutely enjoy helping people transform themselves so that they can help transform others and build a successful coaching practice. Actually, I want to add successful and happy coaching practice.
Yes, that's the key ingredient, isn't it? We don't want successful and stressed. We want successful and happy.
Absolutely. A lot of people are successful but not really happy. A lot of people are reasonably happy, but they're not earning a good income from what they do. And, as you and I both know, we can have both. Yeah. And having both in a lot of ways is to actually go to the gold and platinum processes and weed out some stuff. Yeah, the glass ceilings. Yeah, glass ceilings. Hey, Shereen, an absolute pleasure to be talking to you today.
Such fun. Thank you, Andrew. It's so good to talk shop, talk all our experiences.
I know, talk. Yeah. We need to do more of this. I don't know about you, but when I do some Facebook Lives and I'm on my own, I feel a bit alone, and bounce ideas off someone is one thing that I love doing. So we might organize another one in the not so distant future.
Absolutely. And thank you to all our beautiful people. I've been seeing some comments. A few people have been on here the whole hour with us, which is really fantastic. So I want to honor them.
Hey, actually, before we go, if anyone has any ideas for topics that you'd like us to cover, like us to talk about, in any area, it might be us, it might be different people coming in, because, this program allows for multiple people. So just in the comments now or later, put in some areas you'd like us to cover, some questions you have, and we might jump in for an hour session or maybe a 15-minute session and do a quick one with you guys.
Yeah. And definitely, even if you're watching replay, #replay, put in your comments, your questions. We'll be checking back in to get in touch with you afterwards as well.
Absolutely. Love you guys. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks all.